Welcome back to the Muster Point Beyond the Wire, where we lift the lid on life after service, spotlight those making a difference, and have honest chats with those who've walked the path. Today we've got something a bit special. We're joined by Chris O'Donnell, a US Marine Corps veteran who's here to share his journey, from boots on the ground to life beyond the uniform. We'll be diving into his experiences in the military, what transition looked like on the other side of the pond, and having a proper look at the differences in support for veterans in the UK versus the USA, the good, the bad, and the stuff we could all learn from. It's a cracking chat, full of insight, perspective, and plenty of common ground between brothers and sisters in arms, no matter the flag on your sleeve. So settle in, this one's well worth a listen. Where are you from in the States?
Birthplace is like Altamont Springs, Florida. It's like basically you can say Orlando, Florida. But I live in Norway currently.
Oh, you actually live in Norway?
Yeah.
And what are you doing in Norway?
Well, I think what everybody that moves to Norway, because I don't think nobody knows about Norway most of the time. Everybody's like, when they first say, at least as an American, I never even knew about like what. The first time I met a Norwegian and I heard their accent when they're like, hello. And I'm like, where are you from? Norway? Like, oh, what? And it's a magical land that's full of happy people and all this and skiing. And
I know it's cold, isn't it? It's a lot different from Florida.
Yeah, so the only thing that brings you out here is Eskimo pussy, you know what I'm saying? So in love, you know? So that's why I'm out here.
So when did you serve?
I served in 2005 to the end of 2010.
Oh, right. Oh, so that was literally the same dates as me. So I joined the Royal Engineers in 2005 to 2010, yeah.
Damn, nice.
What unit was you in?
Yeah, I started off as an analytical linguist. We got the United States Army, we got the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, which some people negate still today that they're even a branch, and Navy, yeah. So a lot of times when you say, like in America, or at least the UK, I think you guys are quite known that you know what a Marine is, the United States Marine is, but like even when I first met other cultures, we were always told that everybody knows who we are wherever we go around the world because we had the battles in France, you know, and the Tupuhundan name that we got from that. And so when I would say I was a Marine to somebody outside of the U.S., it would always be like, oh, you go underwater, or you know, like Marine because it's water,
submariner.
Or then they think you're just a regular Army or whatever. But there is quite a different standard just by going into the Marine Corps by itself. I don't think that's biased. I think even guys in the Army, which I have family in the Army too, would agree. Like these are where the insane guys go, you know, and especially when 9/11 just happened and you know 100% if you join the Marine Corps, you are going to go to Iraq. You are going to go there. So it was volunteer at that time. So it's not mandated for anybody to go in. But of course, you know, they feed on the poor society because I grew up quite poor and I worked my whole life since I was 8 years old. But of course, my family can't afford to pay for me to go to university when I was growing up because it's impossible. And so
this was my experience. So I was in Afghanistan towards the end of 2009, which was Op Herrick 11. So the Americans came out because you have all the kit and all the money. So you had some vehicles with you which could handle being blown up by IEDs and clear IEDs.
Yeah, the MAVs.
Yeah, that's it. My experience was that I think that these guys were from the US Army. They were from sort of the deep south, sort of very racist, very impoverished, very gun-ho. And it was almost sad. And to be fair, we recognise it in Britain that these youths haven't got anything to do. They're either going to end up in prison or let's stop them doing that. Let's bring them into the fold and take them to war. And it's it's fucking sad.
Yes, because even when I was in my time frame, when I was coming into the military, it was people, literally, I had a guy in my class that he had a manslaughter charge and he got away with it. But he got away with it because he got a waiver to come into military because when he went to court, it was I'm sorry, you either have to go to jail or go to the military. He picked the military and they took away that whole manslaughter charge and all this stuff. I knew a lot of guys too that were coming over from different countries, like Dominican Republic, that, you know, like a lot of people don't understand that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So when I say I am half Puerto Rican, that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, so they're still U.S. citizens. But there's a lot of islands around there that, like, you know, you can think about, like, Cuba's closer to America than Puerto Rico is. And Puerto Rico, you can get on a plane and just come to America, even though Puerto Rico in itself is almost like a third world country inside there. I knew a lot of people that came from Cuba, Dominican Republic, all this stuff. And if they join the military, they'll give them guaranteed U.S. citizenship. So that, like, skips you. You don't have to do this whole trying to get a visa, trying to get to America, whole process and all this, spend all this money and try and make it there. And maybe you see you don't like it there and whatever, you know.
You served with the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, we watched the film Platoon. I see US Marines going through training with their rifles held above their head going, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, sorry, not Platoon, Going, what was the other one? This one's my rifle, this one's my gun, this one's for firing, this one's for fun.
For instance, my first experience of him running and screaming, we had to go. We were getting like gun drill, you know, like doing like we do a lot of drill and we drill everywhere, like basically marching wherever you're going and blah, blah, blah. And so we were getting really good. And the whole thing as a drill instructor, it for their career, it looks good if your training unit wins like drill and wins these competitions, because it shows that you as a leader are doing good to lead people, to train them to do something even like so tight, so like that we're just recruits, but we got that left shoulder arms like so tight that you don't even see a difference. You know, it's all one motion and doing all this shit. Yeah, so we had a battle,
like the old show drill, like throwing your rifle round in it.
Yeah, and so we do this it's a little bit gay, but we're in our underwear and shit, and then our drill instructor is like talking shit to the other drill instructors, I'm guessing. But a lot of what you see, you never see them fight, you never see them eating, you never see anything. There's a lot of things that are hidden because there's 3 of them, right? So you only have one out on with you all the time, or 2 or all 3 could be with you. But so they were talking shit to the other guys, you know, obviously because they're higher in their career now. They want to talk shit to the other guys as their guys are better at drilling. So we have a whole drill off in our underwear, you know, in front of each other as they're screaming right shoulder arms or port arms or whatever the movement is. And then somebody, right when we were done, you know, because my drill instructor was like, fuck yeah, you see that? I got a fucking hard on. And he had his dick was hard as hell, and he was just showing his whole dick to everybody. He's like, you see that? I'm fucking hard. You guys made me fucking proud. And then while he's like trying to give this motivational speech, he's like, emergency, sir. And he was like, what the fuck, recruit? He's like, sir, recruit,
Chris, it sounds like you're still excited. It sounds like you're still getting hard on about it now.
yeah, because I'm still reliving it in my head. I still see it. You know what I mean? And then, okay, you got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done, sir. And it's done. You got 10 seconds. I mean, it's like that fast. And this guy had to take a shit. So he just got to run in there, open his trousers, drop a log, and run out, right? So we get down back to we're on the first floor. We went to the second floor to do this little rifle battle. Went back down to the first floor, and then all of a sudden I see one of the drill instructors come out, and you're not allowed to look forward. We're on line, like standing on our yellow line in front of our rack. So I can't see I can see just my peripheral, you know, and it's a drill instructor. Somebody's like, eyes. And once they say eyes, you snap your heads and look at them and eyes open, sir. And just snap our heads at him, and you just see him standing there holding a human turd in his hand. And he's like, who the fuck did not flush? Who the fuck is this shit? What the fuck? And he was just like a raging ape with a heart on. And then he just fucking throws it against the wall, and the shit goes everywhere. And he's like, clean this shit up! And like runs out.
This is the stuff you don't see on the news. So was US Marine Corps training like that, where you had your drill sergeant with that funny act, like shouting at you?
Yeah, this is your first exposure when you got to think about, well, it depends on how you were raised and how your life and your family life, but this is your first exposure to, in reality, trauma. It is, even though people don't want to look at it as a fact, it is, the first time we're experiencing trauma, but like sanctioned trauma to help you grow as a person. That's what it's meant for, you know, but we have no other choice when we're going to war. We have to train people to have a different mentality when you're going to war, because it's not going to be all roses and But it's going to come to reality really quick when you see that the strongest guy that you know can go down just as easily as you, and you're not as invincible as you think you are. And doesn't matter how much training you have, you can still go down. But yes, you need to be prepared. You need to be trained. You need to be on your shit. And it may sound stupid to be reloading. That's what people don't understand. What's the difference between somebody that's just in the Army and somebody that's a pro? It's not that they're doing different techniques. It's you're doing it over and over and over until it's all muscle memory and you don't even think, and you're just doing it even under stress, under anything. And that's a whole different thing that people don't understand, that you have to do a function so many times that your body just does it, even under stress, that you just do it. So, and that's what we did all the time. Just even the simple thing like reloading magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's that thing of breaking you down from being a civilian into a soldier or a Marine in your case, where when your boss tells you to jump, your first response is how high. You don't start questioning it, because on the battlefield you start questioning stuff, then shit goes wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know about the Americans, but I know the British Army, before we went out on a patrol, for instance, in Iraq, we'd have a little, we called it an O group, so we'd have a meeting, whoever's on the patrol, and we'd go through what we called actions on. So it'd be actions on contact left, actions on contact right, and everyone would go through, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop. We're going to, we're going to withdraw. We're going to either advance, whatever
hand
the
signals,
situation may
you
be.
guys need hand signals and different things. And
and the first contact I got into was an IED strike in
was
Iraq.
there an ambush after, or secondaries, or it was just one?
No, luckily there wasn't. It was just one, thank God. But we reacted as we trained when we spoke about our actions on. We all got,
was it a 155? Was it something small? What kind of IED was it?
It was an EFP.
One of those EFPs. Damn.
Yeah.
So they said they were training some engineers out there. Like there's people from the Middle East were going to get engineering degrees, come back and make those EFPs to help out the other guy. Yeah.
I believe they thought it might have come from Iran. But
yeah.
So I think we withdrew. Got into fire positions and awaited secondary attacks or ambush. But luckily there was nothing.
Yeah.
But again, like you go through these drills and you just react automatically, and that's what's great about the Western world, if you like. Our military are professional.
My time was the end of an era. When I went through, I got to get shit on, and all the rules were different when I was under. And then by the time I made it to corporal, then the Mothers of America came in, and Obama's world came in. And not to be political, but it got very soft, and it was no more hazing allowed, no more this. But that was always not allowed. It was always, even underage drinking was never allowed. But when you're not in a garrison military, and you're in a wartime military, a lot of things are just like, dude, you're probably going to die at war anyway, so you can have a beer. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or whatever. You're in the military. Like, here you go. Even your first sergeant's like, there you go, let's party. And it's a whole different world. And the fraternization wasn't a big deal, which now it is. And all these rules are 100% serious now, when in my time, it was always, you just don't get caught or know the right people.
In the UK, we call it being woke. I don't know, is that a word over in America? Being woke?
Yeah, I guess I heard about those words after I left.
It's interesting. In most states, the legal age to drink alcohol is 21, right?
Yes, yeah.
But yeah.
And then 18 to vote, and 18 for cigarettes, and 18 to go to the war,
What's the youngest you can join the military in the US?
17. I joined when I was 17. Had my with the
in the UK,
signature.
In the UK, it's 15 and 9 months. It's crazy.
Nice. I would have went when I was at that age, just because my home life wasn't good growing up either. But that's how I feel. I felt prey to going into. I'm not, and I don't. It's not to talk shit about my service or my country, but I just stating the obvious that what they did is predatory to give. Because that's what I want to get into. See what resources comes into you guys. Because for instance, for us to go in the military at the time, before 9/11 happened, there's no bonuses, no stuff. But now they were giving out bonuses. If you go into the Army, you can get like $20,000. Before it's not a lot of money, but it's for an 18-year-old, 17-year-old. It's a lot of money, especially when you're poor.
I don't think there's anything like that. And I think, in fact, there's more people leaving our military than there are joining up at the minute for the last few years. So the British Armed Forces is shrinking.
But you have to
tiny anyway.
You can see America. Yes, it has a big fighting force, but there's only two ways you can get a big fighting force. You're going to have to give a good enough incentive for people to join, because people aren't just going to go to war just to go to war, especially with how politics are today. Nobody can trust politics or anything like that. So who are you fighting for, and what are you fighting for? So you have to have purpose, right? Just like 9/11 gave me purpose to join. Yes.
I can totally relate to what you're saying. Like, the UK government at the moment are talking about bringing back conscription, and it's because of that thing of like a disenfranchised youth. I mean, in the UK, like, it offends people to fly the Union Jack in their garden, and it's like when this is going on, like, why would somebody turn around and be proud of their country? Why would someone be proud to fight for their country?
Yeah.
As you say, it's the sign of the times where wokeism or politically correctness is coming in. You can't trust politicians. And it's just like, why would anyone want to fight?
Yeah. And then there's only two ways. Either give a lot of money, so people that are like, let me, like, it's like winning the lotto. Like, let me try and see if I can do this and survive and make some good money. We make some good money too. Or it's being in a North Korea and like a dictatorship where you have no choice, that you have to, or China, you're forced to go in there. And where Scandinavia and all the rest of the places are more, if you want to, and if you're in good enough health, we'll take you, kind of thing. It's only looking for the people that actually want to do it and have a purpose or feel the need, instead of being predatory. Yeah, but that goes into that whole other side. But
so, Chris, did you, in the wake of 9/11, did you deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan already?
Yes, because then I did deploy in 2007 and 2008, Iraq, Kuwait, Syria. We went to Afghanistan, did the invasion of Marja. I didn't go to Baghdad. I heard it looks like you guys were around the Baghdad area. I was around. Most of my time was in Ramadi and around Fallujah.
The British were more in Basra.
Basra, yeah, I've been by there. I know that name so bad. Basra. Isn't
down
that
south.
Lake? No, Lake Habaniya is near there.
I don't think so.
I remember coming out like Al Taqadim. I remember Al Taqadim. Behind Al Taqadim was that pond. Do you guys use are saying you guys probably use a different system? That's what I'm thinking, because we have like. No,
I think we use the same names. I don't remember too many. I remember Route Tampa. I think that went.
Tampa, yes.
That went from Kuwait all the way up to.
You guys have
Baghdad,
a Blue Force tracker or like a GPS that shows your position and the map?
Oh no! Well, we didn't have GPS. But we had maps and a compass.
Oh, you guys only literally had a map and a compass.
Yeah, we did have GPS, but it didn't tell us where anything other than a grid reference.
Oh, we had it in our Humvees, like the Corporal and stuff like that. Would have.
Bloody hell.
We had these old Land Rovers with chicken wire for windows.
That's old. Yeah. Sorry, I know I was still like old school, but we still had a little bit of more modern technology, I guess, at that time. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yes, and now it's making me kind of shocked.
Yeah. We're used to the shit.
We used to love working with the Americans because of it.
I'm talking over here like, remember on the screen, and the code is, I remember, like, because there's a code to get onto the GPS, and there was a ditty, fat bitches can break dance too. So there was like FB. So that's how you remember what the password is to get into the GPS system.
How the other half live, with all that money, bloody hell, all that kit and equipment. Did you have the pleasure of serving with any British forces in your time overseas?
I didn't directly serve, but I saw you guys from farther away because most of the time I was in a small convoy with like 4 vehicles max.
Yeah.
And we were off doing different missions because we had different missions every day. We did something close 600 something missions or something because there was a lot of missions in a day. We were full go. That's why we got picked up a lot to go do other missions that we were out of our like technical role and jobs, but we were doing really good in all our missions, and we got attention from higher ups that we were successful in everything we were doing. So we got more and more work. That's what happens when you do your job good. You get more and more and more and more work. So, but it was a good time. Yeah, but the British guys, I remember because you guys had, like, we have a PX that we sell like nicotine, hate, and cigarettes. And then you guys had because you guys had like Jolly Rancher. You had all kind of candy in your PX. And we thought your PX was like a candy store rather than like.
Did you ever try a pot noodle?
Huh? You got some noodles?
Did you ever try a pot noodle? It was like a plastic pot full of noodles, and you just added water, and it's quite nice.
Yeah, we still are a little bit.
It's a very British thing.
We thought it was old. We had food from Vietnam. It was still just the MRE.
Bloody hell.
So because they still had so many like over surplus from Vietnam of this, the meals ready to eat. You just throw some water in there, and it activates the chemicals in there to eat, and then you just heat up your pouches and eat that.
I've shared before that this US Army unit turned up with us in Afghanistan. I got wind of the fact that you Americans enjoy swapping kit with the with us Brits. So I got a Royal Engineers stable belt. I don't know if you know what a stable belt is, but it's basically like a belt with my corps colours and my cap badge on the front. So I walk into the tent with the Americans in, and I'm like, who wants to swap something for this? And I basically got an entire US Army uniform and about 3 boxes of MREs.
Oh, hell yeah.
So when I went back to my troops and that, I was like, look at all these MREs I've got. And we were loving it, weren't we? Like,
nice.
just the fact that it was that chemical reaction in the pouch with a little bit of water to heat it up.
Yeah.
What else was there? The sloppy Joe burgers. I remember the squeezy cheese with jalapenos. It was quality.
Oh yeah. The jalapeno cheese. That you can get someone to suck your dick for that. Jalapeno cheese was no joke. And then we had. Do you guys have any what is it, superstitions or anything? Like, because for us too, it was like if you got, everybody knows if there's the vegetable MRE, it'll be like a veggie burger or whatever, which a lot of people hate, but which I like. The only reason people get it is because the shitty vegetarian MRE comes with the candy and milkshake and chocolate probably, and but there's these candies in there called charms, and then it's a bad omen to have any charms in your Humvee, so they're not allowed in the Humvee because bad shit always happens when you have them in, so they're not allowed in the...
I didn't have any superstitions myself, but I know one that was a big one in the British forces was we used to get a packet of boiled sweets in the ration packs, and I think it was you shouldn't eat the green ones. Was it the green ones? Because that was a bad omen. But as I said, I was like, yeah, fuck it, I don't give a shit. You didn't directly serve with British forces, but come on, we want to know what is yours, and by extension of that, the US Armed Forces view of the British forces. Come on, you can be as cutthroat as you want.
I remember seeing too the first time that I saw you. I didn't know who you guys were, what was that, because I just saw like a black vehicle and it looked like an armadillo. And we call it armadillo, and we were just weirded out because we were just wondering what that vehicle was, and we saw that it was the British. And did you guys work with Marines? Because I felt like a lot of times when you have collaboration with the U.S., it seems like you guys are working with the U.S. Army, and we don't really get like a lot of collaboration.
I personally work with the U.S. Army, but I guess
that's what I mean.
Our Royal Marine Commandos may have worked with the U.S. Marines.
We did kind of. It was more they had their own AO and we had our own AO, but we met up in the desert before, and we was having competitions, and they was doing the US Marines are all big muscly meatheads, and they was having press up competitions, but then they started doing press ups with someone on their back and then 2 people on their back. And so, but we got on well though, and we won because I ate a lizard. So it overruled their press up competitions because I ate a lizard. But but no, we had a laugh with them. But then we went our separate ways, and they done whatever they do. And we did work alongside. I think we used their air support because that's the thing. The Royal Marines, the British Royal Marines, they are just Royal Marines. They're just like infantry. Whereas the US Marine,
wouldn't say that to a Royal Marine Commando, mate.
The US Marine Corps is like our armed forces, probably bigger than our armed forces.
Without
you've got the air support, you've got everything there, the armor.
Yeah. That's why it's interesting to hear you guys' perspective in there, because yes, there is very bad cooperation, even though they're saying that all these lands are together in the fight. We don't have like a unified collaboration on this because you're getting told from your government to do your own little things, and then we're not on a shared. I thought you guys had for the whole time. Nobody told me. I thought you guys had the same map as us and like GPS and shit. And it's like, why don't if we're all collaborating? Why hasn't this all been collaborated? Isn't that the people at the top, the general and all these other people? What were they doing this whole time?
Yeah, that's exactly that. The politicians and the generals.
What were they doing? They didn't coordinate. They just let us all out like a bunch of idiots doing our own little things. And so that's basically what it was.
Talking of the British Royal Marines, a random question: when the US Marines go to sleep, do they wear underwear?
Yeah, you just wear the green.
The British Royal Marines, they refuse to wear underwear. They call it going commando. They're not in training. In training, they're not allowed to wear underwear.
We just have silkies. It's the shortest possible and smoothest, the little shorts you can possibly imagine. As short as they possibly get. Your balls can dangle out and get some air. Sometimes little. So especially with runs,
You've just
it's a
excited
very-
Steve there. He wants a set of these.
It's the most motivating thing you can put on to go for a run, especially in the morning with a
Oh, fair
command
enough.
that you hate.
Yeah.
Is just come out there with a raging boner and go run that. You can let First Sergeant know that you are excited to go wake up at 4 a.m. to go
Yeah.
run.
Well, I've just remembered that. So we had a US Marine officer embedded with us on patrols. He was the junior tactical air commander, which is the guy that
Okay.
basically
Yeah,
talks
JTAC.
to the fast air when it comes in. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, hard on moments. So we're under contact in Afghanistan, and he's called in fast air. Contact's going on, and basically he's gone fast air inbound in five seconds, and he started the countdown. And out of fucking nowhere, this A-10 bomber, you couldn't even hear it.
Yeah.
It just fell out of the sky. It literally stopped, put its afterburners on and fucked off. And I was just like, yeah, that is quality.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant. And the other one he called in. So
That's when I think it's proper to say America. You know what I'm saying? That's proper
brilliant.
America.
Well, even better than that. So us Brits, obviously, with a lack of kit and equipment, like I rarely saw the British tornadoes drop any bombs or anything, but the US Black Hawk had come in to pick up some casualties, and as it flew off, the Taliban were taking some pot shots, and in typical brilliant American style, they've gone, we're not fucking having this, and
You call
flew
it a
in
tick.
like 2 F-35s or whatever and dropped 1,000-pound bomb onto like this position of probably 2 Taliban. It was brilliant.
And why is the war so expensive? Well, we spent like
Yeah,
30
yeah,
billion
yeah.
to kill that guy.
America, fuck yeah.
What was that film?
Team America.
Team
Yeah,
America,
Team
that's
America,
it.
yeah.
Fucking hell, brilliant.
Yeah, but talking to the interpreters, like talking to like the Iraqi army, Iraqi police, and locals, whatever. If you ask them too, I remember we were asking them too. We saw some videos when they first started coming out. We were doing that too when we were there. Was asking them what they think of the U.S. Army, and then they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, no, Mister, they run, and it's like, oh yeah, they pussy. They go, oh no, you get shot. Oh no, I have to go. And then what do you think about the Marines? And they're like, oh no, Mister, no, they kill everybody. No, fuck around. They call us like big monsters. And I was like, oh okay. And I remember too, we asked about the Brits, and the Brits, they thought they were cool too. They were like, oh no, they good, and they're hard. And even my other buddies that talked about, the British Royal Marines, when you hear that name, that's, those are some serious guys. And
Yeah.
same with the Brits. And especially when I got to personally know, I worked security for some time. That's what everybody does when they're getting out of the military and have something to do while they're going to college, I guess. And then just went into security, it's armed security, and executive protection and different things. But I ended up working with one of your buddies who was a tanker and over there, and we shared a lot of stories working together. Of course, when you just have a security job and you're on post together for 12 hours at a time, you get to know each other quite well. So that's why I know Ryan Nesbitt. I don't know how close you guys are to him, but obviously he's friends of yours.
Yeah, I was good mates with we used to call him Rab, because there was a TV show in the 90s called Rabsy Nesbitt.
Okay.
And it was this scruffy Scottish person, so he was known as Rab.
Yeah.
What did you make of his accent?
Oh, it's amazing. But, of course, he knows that, because the second you
from
come to
Plymouth.
America, maybe your British accent doesn't seem nice to you or not good for the ladies there, but all the ladies in America are drool for that British accent. Maybe not the teeth, but the accent, yes.
When I've been out in the States a few times, and for me, certainly, but us Brits, we can't, unless you're like from Queens in New York, the American accent, whether you're from Florida or Vegas or wherever, it sounds pretty similar, doesn't it? And I was shocked that the American women I spoke to, being from Britain or the UK, we sound the same, whether you're from Scotland, London, Liverpool, or whatever.
Yeah. But the thing is that's what a lot of people get. That's why the people get a different perspective of America, because you got to realize also there's 385 million people in America, and even if 10% are idiots, that's a lot of idiots running around. And yes, I'm not saying the education system is good, but the education system has failed that lady that you spoke to. And it's like it has a lot of people. A lot of the systems are bad.
I was on a stag do, or a bachelor party, as you guys call it, out in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I got speaking to a group of, I'd call them idiot Americans from Texas, that they felt sorry for me because I was from the UK, and I was like, have a word with yourself, mate.
I know, but that's so many people. I know so many people in America that are born in a little town. They've never left that town. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
And these are the people that are,
Again, in Vegas, I got speaking to some Native American guys and that, and I had a great conversation with them. I was like, they knew British soldiers and that, and yeah, just that sort of polar opposite. Like on one hand, you could be speaking to some very arrogant American that looks down on the UK and just pities us, and then these Native Americans that, I don't know, I just had a right laugh with them. I think I ended up getting pissed with them. What shocked me was like how mistreated the Native Americans are, because these Texas guys that were sort of, I just finished having the conversation with, they were like looking at me in disgust for talking to these Native Americans, and it was like, fucking hell, like,
yeah. But
I don't know, I just found it a bit.
Been a bad. I have personally one of my best friends that was my sergeant. I'll just say his last name, Cruz. He's a Native American, and he's Chauvin tribe. I had to represent for him, and then my other buddy that was in the service that was also named Harvey. And that was cool about them. They were actually allowed to do peyote while in service to the country. Because so every time we have drug tests like once a month, I don't know how they do it for you guys, but we have to go to battalion, piss in a cup, and all this stuff, and spend like $3,000 a month to do all these drug tests and blah blah blah. But anyways, they're allowed to do peyote because it's just part of their ritual and stuff. But yeah, the Native American community has been shit on. You can go around in America. I lived in South Dakota. I've lived all across the U.S. and I've seen it, the res, or as I'll call it, where all the Native Americans live, like the reservation, the res, and it's just filled with crime and drugs, and it's just, of course, because the government is just, what's easier? Like, oh, you don't want to work? Okay, well, they have to pay. They get paid to be Native American because of all the, yes, of course, because of all the bad things that was done to them in history and past to make their culture be more diminished. You know what I mean? Because there's fewer Native Americans than there was back in the time.
Yeah.
And plus, then they just give them like food stamps. You know, like, so it's like fake. It's only money that can only be used to buy food.
Yeah.
And stuff. But they get it now. They're more modern. They have a card and stuff, and free phone, and you can live here on the res in this broken down place, and then they have their own police, their tribal police.
Yeah.
And so there's a mixture between the laws when it comes to that, and they're just looked at in the general culture, like, just, if we're going to be honest, they're looked at as almost like scum and less than human. And
well, it sounds like that thing of
thieves.
Sounds like that thing of, we'll give you your fundamental needs like food, water, and accommodation, but you have to stay in this area where, just out of the way, we don't want to see you.
Yeah. And then when they come around, then, you know, somebody's probably, not that it's illegal, but maybe they're following them around the store just to make sure they're not stealing something because, you know, they're Native American or whatnot. You know what I mean?
That's sad, isn't it?
But I heard a lot of the struggles that my buddies, because you learn about when you go into the military, you meet so many different people and you have these connections. And that's what people don't have today in today's society, that they don't have connections with other people. And so they don't understand other people's perspectives, and they don't care. They only see the world in their view, and this is what's right in my world, and everybody's fighting for this because this aligns with my world and everything like that.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's really, we have to look at the whole picture and stop.
Chris, you said that you left in 2010. What was the reason you left?
Pussy. I'm sorry, girl.
Eskimo pussy.
Oh, no, it was... no, that wasn't that time. It was fiery because there was a Puerto Rican little hot fiery thing from the Bronx, South Bronx.
So you did actually leave for a woman?
Yeah, because I already did my tours and got injured as well. So now I got a metal plate in my leg and screws and all that. So that's fun. And I had to learn to walk again and all this shit from one of my...
How did you find the transition? How did you find it going from being a US Marine into being a civilian, and just said there that you were injured as well?
So when I first got out, dude, okay, I already set everything up to, I'm a go kind of guy. Once you get to know me, you'll see that. And a lot of people that's why people think I'm crazy. I am diagnosed with PTSD. Yes. And I want to talk to you guys more about that in a little bit. And I was going to say, I already set up. So I already did all my admissions, everything. I was ready to go to college. And I knew I was going to go to New York because that's where I met this girl, and we wanted to get serious because she's been with me for my last year in service. And because even though I had deployments and I had different things and I saw that she was loyal, I figured she was the one. And then if anything, I was going to get out. And because I have that GI Bill, which we get when we sign up, which is basically a bill that they came in. That's why another thing that they're predatory, that I get college paid for, 4 years of college fully paid for because of my service to the country. And because I'm a combat veteran also, I get paid to go to school. So they pay for my, so they'll pay for my whole apartment. And they'll pay you based on the cost of living for the area. So it's based off the zip code of the university you're going to attend. They will pay you like you're at E5 in the military with a dependent. So it's like almost like you're in the you're getting the same pay.
And this is for any US.
That's why I think we have a lot to talk about. Yes, that's why this is so interesting to talk to you guys, because I feel there's so much dialogue that we between service do not have. And this is why I think it's important that we share our stories together and we make a change in the community that nobody talks about and needs to be talked about, which is the PTSD and the struggles that we as veterans have to go to. And I want to hear more about your experiences, guys, too, and all this. But yes, just stay with me because I have a lot of information. It's just sometimes not too easy for me to get it all out organized.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I try my way, and there's a lot of I remember little things here and there and come back to a tangent.
Yeah.
And sometimes I lose track of where I'm talking because of my sometimes hyper focus on one thing and then I focus somewhere else.
I can relate to that. Just to make it clear, so if somebody served in the US forces, then when they come out, whether they're injured or they just leave normally, the US government pays for them to go to school.
The GI Bill. Yes.
Fucking hell.
And a lot of people don't. That's how when the cost of college in America is like now the university they jack up the prices, $50,000 a semester. You want to go to good school, you want to go to New York, $100,000 a year to go to Columbia, or $100,000 a semester. Yeah, it's $100,000 a semester. And so I have a brother who went there and did a psychology, whatever you call it. Yeah. And that was like $400,000. He had a lot of money in debt. All kinds of stuff, but then you're going to get paid better, and then you can just work your life for a long time to pay that debt off until you paid it off, and then you're higher up in your career and you make a shitload of money, and then but you still have to be a slave to the system because they keep increasing the retirement age. So it's so.
Just to share some of my experience. So when I was out in Afghanistan in 2009, I got blown up by an IED, which resulted in me losing my right eye.
Yeah,
and for at least 4 weeks after it happened, I was completely blind. And they were saying we don't know whether we can save one eye, we don't know whether we can save both eyes, or we may not be able to save either. So it happened on the 19th of December 2009.
Yeah, you don't forget
and
that day.
I was discharged, left the army in June 2010, 6 months later. And so the guys I served with were either still in Afghanistan or then on post-tour leave. So I never got to see them or integrate with them.
Yeah.
I never got any sort of decompression. I got no therapy or counselling. It was literally, I stood in front of a med board, which is where if you've been injured, not just through war, but if you've got a injury, you stand in front of the med board and they say either, they tell you the outcome and they told me to soldier on. So I basically just left 6 months later from a horrendous time in Afghanistan to being a civilian.
I just lost my fucking lost my fucking eye for my country and fucking not gonna see. And then you're gonna tell me to fuck off, take some fucking Tylenol, drink some water, and change your shot.
I just left. It was all swept under the rug, as it were, and there was me off, still fucking. My head was still in Afghanistan. My body was my face was fucked and that. And it's
what pride do you have in your country? What pride do you have in your country after something like that?
Well,
you know what I mean? I know you have pride because you did the service and you feel proud for everything you did. But when it comes to really your inner feelings towards your country, it's like, isn't that fucked? Aren't you mad at the upset? Because this is bullshit. I think.
Spent many years angry, resentful, and all that towards the armed forces and my country, so I ended up descending into addiction, alcohol and cocaine. I'm now 2 years clean and sober. It was very much it was an excuse, fucking hell, I've been mistreated, fucking and all this, so I'm going to snort loads of coke. Whereas now, don't get me wrong, it was fucking criminal what they done to me and fucking wrong. But the only person I'm hurting by sniffing loads of coke is myself and the people around me. So as much as it's, I can voice it and say, it was fucking wrong, I'm not wasting my anger on them. And part of the podcast is trying to enforce change.
Yeah, yes, that's what we need, and that's good. I mean, bro, it sounds like you looked like you went to some kind of therapy because you have your head in the right place.
But it was all privately funded. There was
Yeah,
no support from the government. It was fucking ridiculous.
Let me tell you more about my transition. I'll tell you more about that because you asked me and I went off because I had everything set up to go to school, and it was 2 weeks because I got out on August 29th, 2010, and my fiance at the time, the girl that I left the military for, and then I was like, I'll probably go to college and either come back as an officer or I'll go be a cop, one of those two. So I'll just go get a criminal justice degree because that way I can go into the military again as an officer or go the cop route. And then my fiance at the time didn't like me hanging out with my best friend because the reason I met her is the guy that was served as my A gunner in country and my roommate in the Marine Corps, Minkler. I met her. So, when you go on leave with when you first get leave when you're in the military, like you go home the first time because you're like proud, like, oh, look, I made it, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, when you start taking leave again, you don't really go home because it's the same old shit going on. So you go to your buddy's home. So that's me going to go see what it's like for my best friend in New York and his life and his family and meet his family and all that stuff and get to experience each other's culture, and food and our raising because that military gives you a strong bond to another human, you know what I mean, that you don't get in the other settings, I feel. So we get a deeper connection, I feel. And people don't understand that. But I had the best way to explain it, So I was up there. Yeah. Oh, she hated my best friend because, of course, he was single and still, fresh out of the war and everything like that and has a shitload of money in his pocket. You want to go to the bars, pick up a hot chick and get a nice hotel and wine and dine them and wham bam and then thank you ma'am and have a nice time and but so she didn't like that because he was like the wingman, so we secretly set up classes together. So that's how we would hang out, is just by going to school together and to motivate each other to go to school because that's where we know we get to see each other because we have the same classes. So we went early in the morning because we're both excited to see each other, and this campus is on a hill, big hill, like rocky stairs that you have to run all the way up. But either way, I was standing in front of the elevator. There's only one elevator in this school. We had plenty of time to get to our class. And then there comes a kid, teenager, obviously, because I'm an old man in college now, 22 years old, and I feel like I'm grandpa. This comes a kid with white kid, do-rag, pants hanging down. He had Timberland boots on with like the boots are all untied. He had a music on his, he had a headset on with his music blasting like crazy loud, whatever, that's fine. But then the elevator door opens, and I didn't realize, because this is my first time going to education after the military, that we didn't have to bring our college books to class. You just leave them at home. But me still being a boot, fresh out of the
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Military. Yeah, I know. So I put all my college books, because there are a lot of fat ass books, into. I didn't have a backpack, so I just used my day pack from the military. So I have my military backpack filled with college books now that still has sand from Iraq in it and sand from overseas, and maybe even a little fucking dead spider, whatever those camel spider. Yeah, I remember those guys fighting those guys.
Spider,
yeah. But so this door opens. This kid pushes my backpack, and I don't know in kilos, but I was like 160 pounds at the time. I was just a ripped little lean machine. But my backpack weighed more than me. So when he pushed my backpack to like skip the line, like there's obviously a queue of people waiting behind us, because everybody in humanity knows if two people are standing right in front of an elevator, they're probably waiting for it. And there's a whole bunch of people standing behind them.
Yeah.
So that's probably a huge line for the elevator. So you either have to take the stairs or hope that you can make that elevator to get to your class on time if you want to be lazy. But we're super early, so we're there, right? Then he pushes my backpack, goes in front. I spin around like 360 like a couple times. I get so enraged that this kid just pushed past everybody, doesn't care about anybody else. And yes, I don't care how you dress or anything like that, but it shows your character too. And so I'm still fresh out and don't realize that I have anything different in me. I think I'm still the same person that I was before I went to the military, but I'm not the same person anymore.
Yeah.
So now, when somebody did that to me and pushed me like that and got me that pissed, like, what the fuck? And you're like, this is not right. I just grabbed him by the do-rag. Everybody got in the elevator. My best friend was with me too. He got in the elevator. I grabbed the kid's do-rag and started smashing his head against the elevator with all the kids in it and with the camera in there.
So obviously there's this thing that the US government do. So if you've served, like, we'll fund you to go to college. But it sounds like this reaction you had is part of being in the military. It's that military mindset, but also possibly PTSD. And I know you mentioned before that you've got PTSD. Yeah. So what's the support like for US veterans with PTSD and that sort of transition from coming from a combat zone or military into civvy street? What support is there for that?
This is how this is the incident that started the whole procedure with like that. There, like alarm bells going off that there's needs to be help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is my first day of college.
Bloody hell.
So I smashed his head against the wall. It looked like he wanted to say something, and so it went a little bit. This is the honest story. Then I pulled out I had a K-bar on me. I pulled out my K-bar, the big knife from the military. It was still in my day pack. And then I was holding his do-rag back and had his neck exposed and put my knife to his throat. And I just asked him if he has something to say. So I was just like, I'll fucking slice your throat right here. You fucking faggot. You want to disrespect and blah, blah, blah. You know what the fuck I've been, because then I was going off and I had a moment,
Yeah.
But I didn't have control of myself during those times. Yeah. And it was just, and then all the kids, obviously my best friend, he's laughing like this. Oh, you done fucked up today. Like that. He was just like,
you're going to get detention
up today. And then he's just laughing. And then, so the second floor dings, and this is all, I know it sounds all slowed down, but this is all happening. This is just a quarterback of what happened. And the second floor dings, all the kids run out screaming. Even that kid, he didn't say a word, and he just ran out, right?
Yeah.
And then the elevator doors closed. So I'm standing there. My buddy Marcel's standing there. I'm just facing straight to the door, like huffing and puffing still. And I can see in my peripherals, he's just looking at me and smiling. And then I was like, what is it? And then he was like, well, Donald, I fucking love you, but you're crazy. You know that? I was like, yeah, but he pissed me off. And blah, blah, blah. He's like, I know. And then we were going to the 5th floor, dings. I go sit down. And in this classroom, there's like slits of glass that you can see into the hallway. And so we're sitting in U.S. politics, our class, boring, yeah. And then I see all these security and cops on the radio, and I was like, yeah, well, they're obviously looking for me. So then I just told my buddy, I was like, hey, man, can you bail me out if they take me away? And he was like, yeah, just let me know, bro. And I was like, all right. I walked out, and I saw all the people with guns and tasers. Security was ready with tasers. The fucking cops with their guns already down at the low ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just coming out with my backpack, and I'm like, what's up, guys? Looking for me? I'm like, were you just in the elevator? I was like, yeah, that was me. I figured you guys looking for me, right? And they're like, yeah, do you have any weapons on you? I'm like, no.
Apart from the big fuck-off knife.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you mean my tool? Because that's the other thing in America too. You have to know your words, and I'm not an idiot. If you declare it a weapon, then it's a weapon. But a knife, you can use it for fishing. You can use it for cutting things. You can use it for so many things. So yes, it was my tool. It wasn't my weapon. Yes, I used my tool in this instance. Yeah. And they're like, oh, can we have your tool? And can I have your wallet? And they're like, yes, it's just for our safety and yours. It's like, you have a gun and a taser. I have my knife here, and it's in my bag. And put it in my bag, it's in my bag. So it's like. Anyways, there's that lingo between back and forth where everybody can be armed against you and you have to be unarmed, whatever. And then so they bring me into the dean's office and they trying to find out like, oh, were you in the military? Yes, I was. Did you go overseas? Yes, I did. When did you get back? 2 weeks ago. Everybody goes, what? And I'm like, yeah, I just got out. I'm going to college, using my GI Bill, Yeah. And they're like, have you gotten any help? And I was like, help for what? and they were like, did you talk to anybody after you got out and all this stuff? And I was like, no, I haven't stopped at the VA or anything like this. No, like the hospital, the Veterans Affairs hospital we have in America. And then so they just said, these fine gentlemen are going to help show you where it is. And I was like, no, it's fine. I know I can look it up myself and I can go there, whatever. And they're like, no. These gentlemen are going to help you find your way. And I was like, okay, so you're telling me I have to go with the police? And it's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So then went there, started talking to somebody, got me all set up starting in New York. And I was one of the first guys out. And then incidents started happening, because we were the fresh ones out from both the wars. You know what I mean? 2010, it's like, got to do everything, come out. And then, Yeah, and so it's all new because the schools haven't had people using the GI Bill yet. So when I first went down to my main home in Florida and tried to use those benefits because the government says they'll pay for anything. So I was like, let me go to this expensive ass college. It doesn't matter if my grades were just average when I went to high school. I have all the money here. Take the money. Let me go to school. And they were like, no, unfortunately, we don't take this. And all these schools were looking down on this bill. And then so I had to start off going to a community college, which was this first college. And they took it in because they know it was guaranteed government money. And then they became like a vet-friendly school. Now all the schools want all the veterans, and they pretend they put a yellow ribbon program, and they pretend they love the veterans and everything. So now every school accepts the GI Bill. But they're accepting free government money that you're guaranteed to get. So, of course, you're going to be the best friends to veterans now. But at the beginning, when this rolled out and everything, all the other universities didn't give a shit about the veterans. But now they put on a face that they do because they only care about the money. But that's where I can see where the corruption is.
After this incident with the knife on your first day of school, and you obviously they identified that you're a veteran and you haven't been to this, the VA hospital. So how was that process? Did you get the support for the PTSD?
Stupid. Because what they do is they do this, what's called CBT, cognitive behavior theory.
Yep.
And so basically they had like my file, I guess, that they read, and they already know everything that I've done. And it's not talking about anything that you've done. It's when you get mad, what's the color on the wall? What's your favorite football team? Count to 10. So just basically teach your brain to anytime you're going to get mad or you're going to have these triggers, distract yourself.
Yeah. Like
distract yourself constantly so that you don't think about the issue. So, but it never was talking about. So I think that didn't help me. Maybe it helps other people. That's why it's like a theory or whatever. That's what it's called, cognitive behavior theory, but whatever. But they, but then I came and then they gave so many, I was like 8 different pills you had to take. That made me into a zombie. I know. Well, I have my wife telling me now that don't forget I got to go pick up my son from school shortly. So I got to get off in a couple minutes, gents.
Yeah.
Then we can talk some more. But
well, we can definitely come back. What's your thoughts on the British royal family?
I haven't looked too much into the politics.
Maybe you don't have any thoughts.
No, but I understand like you guys have the monarch, but the same like Norway where I live now where they have a monarch and king, but they're just political. They're just basically paid waivers. So they just get to come out and wave, and they're paid to live in the castle and play dress up and wave. And they're just a symbol. It's almost like paying for a symbol for people to have something to look up to, or like, like putting the standard of like what royalty is for the rest of the world.
Yeah,
but it's not evil. It's just like, it's artwork. I feel like it's just art. It's in the art department having a king and a queen.
Yeah, I'll get that. What about, have you got time to tell us your thoughts on POTUS, Donald Trump?
I haven't tried to follow too much, but the last thing I saw was what everybody over here was talking about, which that conversation with Zelensky.
Yeah.
That they were very I saw it myself, and I understand both sides. I understand where their hatred is coming from because they're very angry and very passionate about this, but it doesn't excuse the unprofessionalism to the way they talk to Zelensky.
Yeah.
Zelensky, he talked in a fine matter. Yes, he may have other motives, and his motives may be bad. And that's what people have to look at too. People have to look at the actions, not just the words of the individual. And that's what I think is what's really bad for Trump. But of course, I don't know. I haven't been looking at his actions or following up because as I'm living in Norway, but I know that he's a very bad speaker. I know he's a horrible people person.
Yeah.
But when I was when I lived in America on his first term as a working man, and I saw benefits in our entire working class life, which we did need to build the middle class up because it was being separated too hugely by richer getting richer and the poor class growing and growing. So there's only going to be a rich and a poor class, and we did need that middle class to grow and need help for the middle class people because they're the ones really keeping the country running. They're the whole backbone. Even when you see this whole corona things and stuff like that, the working class still had to go, while a lot of people that just get paid big money didn't have to go to work because they're not necessarily essential. They're nice. It's nice, like benefits or things we have in society.
Yeah.
For sure, but not the main necessary things.
I guess not living in the US current, I'm guessing it has less of an impact on you.
Yes, but it still has a huge impact, which we can discuss a lot of that
Yeah.
a little bit later. That's why I said there's so much to talk about when it comes to veterans' rights and benefits, and that's why I also want to talk a lot. I barely scratch anything, I feel like, with you guys, and I got to go get my son, and I feel so bad.
No, not
my
at all.
daughter's birthday today.
So what we plan to do is we'll edit it and we'll air this as a individual episode of the podcast, and Steve can tie in with you. It won't be today, I'll be honest with you, but we can tie in
Just
maybe
let me know
next
whenever.
week another call, and we'll continue the conversation, because it's been interesting. I think it's been amazing.
It's been nice.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so much I have to talk about with you guys, and I feel like so I feel like we need to talk more to get this information out, because I like it and I want to know you guys' experience. And it seems like there's so many, like just hearing this short little thing that we did here, there's a lot of fallacies in your and wrongs in your system in the
100%.
UK, and the only people that are going to make changes, because people need to be aware of it. People need to be aware of it and understand, and we need to come out as people. I don't know if one of you guys are diagnosed with PTSD. We can probably talk about that later. But to how your experience is with living it and the stereotypes that people think what PTSD means. Yes, we can have the similar symptoms, but I believe PTSD is like ADHD and all the other stuff. Like, yes, you have the symptoms of ADHD. Yes, you have ADHD, but you're not, doesn't mean that you're exactly like this other person or this person. It doesn't mean that you're prone to be violent, or doesn't mean you're this or that. Trauma means different things, and what we really experience in the military and service to our country is a lot of trauma that they've given to us that we have to deal with, and then they throw away all responsibility and reap all the benefits. Which it should be both ways. It should be cooperative.
Well, Chris, we'll let you crack on with your day. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and as I said, we'll get you back on.
Yeah, cheers, Chris.
You too, guys.
Yeah, we'll keep in contact. Yeah, thanks for Fritz. See you soon, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Right. See you later, Chris.
It was really nice talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
See you later. Bye.
All right, cheers. Bye.
So that was Chris.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
he's it was. I did find it interesting. Well, that thing that they do where you do your service and then you'll get we'll pay for your education and your living. That's fucking incredible, isn't it?
It is. However, look what happens.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
It sounds brilliant, but when they're sticking someone just coming out of a conflict with kids,
it's
a brilliant idea, but obviously it's going to have consequences.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, but I mean, it's fucking better than what we've got.
It's amazing. It really is. I knew that. I didn't know quite what he said, but I knew they did get help with their college and things like that.
Yeah,
and also, like you said, combat veterans get paid to do that.
Yeah,
which is great.
Imagine coming out of the forces and going, right, I'm going to go to UCL in London, and the government's going to pay for my university, pay for my living, and
see, in our armed forces, we all get the same medal, whether you was burning shitbags in.
We've spoken about
that. Sure, or if you're jumping out of planes into contact, you get paid the same. You get the same medal. Whereas he says, like, if you send combat, you get paid to do your college once you leave.
Yeah.
So
happy days. So that was Chris O'Donnell, ex-US Marine Corps, and part of our new bonus content outside the wire. I think it's a good idea because it adds that extra interview element.
Yeah, and it gives people an insight, and it gives them. Like, I'm sure he learnt a little bit about.
Well, it sounded like
how quick he was shocked that we didn't have their.
Well, he said, we didn't have GPS. We had a map. He's like, what? And by the sounds of it, they got told we had the same kit.
He said their GPS told them the routes and everything.
Yeah, that would have been incredible. That's it for this episode of the Muster Point Beyond the Wire. A big thanks to Chris for sharing his story and giving us a real insight into life as a veteran across the pond. It's clear that while the badges might be different, the challenges we face after service are often the same, and there's plenty we can learn from each other. If you're a veteran, part of a group supporting those who've served, or just someone with a story to tell, we'd love to have you on the show. Whether it's serious support work or just chewing the fat, this is your space too. Get in touch. You'll find us on Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube at the Muster Point Veterans, or drop us an email on stu@themusterpoint.org.uk. Until next time, look after yourselves, look out for your mates, and remember, together we can ensure that no veteran is left behind.